Hello guys and welcome to the Marigold Standard, your weekly audio source of all things Dream Star Fighting Marigold. I'm your host, Rob Goodwin, and it gives me great pleasure, the biggest pleasure, to welcome Matt Turner. And the fact that I haven't got to do the Marigold Standard alone, Matt, it is so good to hear your voice on this podcast again.
Yeah, here we are, back again. I'm so excited. One, to talk to you. Two, to talk to you about some Marigold wrestling. And three, to talk about this fantastic Cork and Hull show that I literally just finished watching just a few hours ago. What a great, fantastic, pure wrestling show from start to finish, brother. So, all exciting things. My man, how's everything over at your neck of the woods?
Yep, not too bad. I'm glad this isn't a video podcast because currently I am sporting a lovely, fetching purple Moomoo because it is chilly in Stoke, or at least I'm chilly anyway. I don't know if Kirsty's the same. But autumn has, well, fall for our American listeners, has officially fallen, and it is just getting that little twinge of coldness. Obviously, we've moved house, different heating system, and it is a lot more difficult to heat this house. So when we do alternate commentary later, I may well keep this sexy little purple number on just for our Patreon listeners. I think that's a tier on its own, Matt, personally.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to give the people what they want, and that's fantastic fashion sense from England's own Rob Goodwin, my man. So I think that's what you got to do. I'm all for it, yeah, because literally after we get done recording this, we're gonna roll right into our alternate commentary. So now I'm intrigued, buddy. I'm intrigued. So you better not change. You better not. As soon as we hit the record button, you're wearing like an Utami Hayashishita shirt or something like that. I'll be disappointed. You built up the anticipation. To me, this very much seems like when Homer Simpson was working from home and he was in the Moomoo and the hat. Oh my goodness. Folks, if that doesn't get you to subscribe to at least the $3 tier on our Patreon, I don't know what will. What a salesman Rob Goodwin is.
It's all about that podcast retention, my friend. It's all about getting people to stay and to subscribe. I'll be honest, I just needed something warmer on because I'm in shorts because I've been to physio and I've still got all the weird, like, oily slime on my leg. So I was like, I could wash it off or I could just continue wearing shorts. And I'll be honest, Matt, I am a lazy man when it comes to stuff like that. So I've just put a Moomoo on, which, again, is fleecy. It's lovely. It's a horrendous, like, lavender lilac colour. It was a gift from my mum, and I don't know what I've done to offend my mum to get her to purchase something that is this lurid purple. However, it perhaps is the greatest purchase that she's ever done in her entire life because it has got a ridiculous amount of wear. But yes, it is. It's about as fugly as it can get. But there we are. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, buddy. Weekend was really good. The Stardom show was phenomenal. I mean, again, these two Marigold shows that we're going to cover, the Shinkiba show and the Corkin show, they were terrific. And then when we record in a couple days, the New Blood show and the Namber, which I should just call it the Amber Grand Fight. That just makes it so much easier for me. That pay-per-view, especially those last four matches, they were unbelievable. And then this weekend I went to go see Mudvayne and Megadeth. And I didn't realize until we were driving to the venue, it is the actual same exact grounds that the world famous Woodstock 1969 festival took place. So you get a lot of really cool stuff when you're walking into the venue. And not only the show was great, but I've never been to that venue before. The venue was terrific. It wasn't overpriced. You didn't have to pay for parking, which usually most of these concerts I go to, they usually charge you an arm and a leg for parking, but no paid for parking. They let you bring in your own water, your own food if need be. So that was really, really fun. And I'm sure we'll go into a little more depth when we get into the Stardom Cast later this week. But I got home from the concert at about 1:15, and the Stardom show started at 2. So I was like, let's see how insane I am. I took a half an hour nap, and then I stayed up and watched the entire Stardom show. I'm not going to lie, I was fading a little bit. And then Suzu Suzuki and Tomoka Inaba came on, and I was literally on the edge of my chair for the last hour and a half of that show. But yeah, that was my weekend. Megadeth was great. That was one of the longest sets I've seen them play in a long, long time, just because Dave Mustaine, the lead singer of Megadeth and the founder of Megadeth, he was battling some health issues the last handful of years. He had throat cancer, and I think before that he had to get neck surgery done. And the rumor was he had to get neck surgery done from headbanging too much on stage. So his concerts that he was playing was maybe only like an hour or so long, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 songs, give or take. But I think they played like 15, 16 songs. They were great. Had a fantastic time. Came home, took a little nap, and then watched a great Stardom show. And then today, I got up early to get some stuff done and watched a phenomenal Marigold show. And how lucky are we, my man? We get to talk about this with the fantastic friends and family of not only the Stardom cast, but the Marigold standard as well.
Absolutely. They're all experiencing the Marigold standard, as it were. Is it upsetting to you that I know more Mudvayne songs than Megadeth songs?
No, not really. Hey man, it's your choice, buddy. It's your choice. But Mudvayne, we got there halfway through All That Remains, and I know some of their songs. They were pretty good. And then Mudvayne came and they kicked ass, and then Megadeth's Megadeth. I mean, they're one of my favorite bands of all time. So, but no, it was a fun time. And hey, to each his own, buddy. To each his own. My wife likes country music, so I'm all about the yin and the yang all over the place. Yes, not everybody can be me and Andy Head are going to see Anthrax and Metallica, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, it does almost bring Amber down in my estimations, but her hatred of Tam Nakano sort of brings her up again. So I've got those two things fighting against each other. It's one genre of music I've never really understood. That's not true, actually. House I've never understood either, but that might be because I am getting on in age and therefore just I'm not cool enough. But yeah, country, I don't think there's any... I just don't think it's really a genre that's translated over to the UK. We don't have like any country artists, I don't think. So yeah, it's not something that we really listen to. Anyway, that aside, Matt Turner, because somehow we got onto country music. We have two full shows for you today. Obviously, the Dreamstar Grand Prix has rolled on through Shinkiba and through Korakuen Hall as well. We're going to review both of those shows now. The news that has dropped this week, there is no Marigold news. There is only Stardom news. Obviously, we had a big announcement of an IWGP Women's Championship defense that's going to be taking place in Nagoya. We have got the first matches confirmed for the next Korakuen Hall show, the New Blood 15 show, and the Nagoya show as well. And we have also got sort of other bits of news to go through as well. But that's all Stardom based. So what I'm going to do is, because we are recording the Marigold Standard a little bit earlier this week, I will go through all of that news on Monday. No, I won't. I'll go through it on Wednesday. Why I said Monday, I don't know. But we'll talk about all the things to do with Stardom on Wednesday, and we'll go through Namba Grand Fight and New Blood. But today, Matt Turner, we have, as you put it, two fantastic Marigold shows. We start at Shinkiba, and brother, there was some absolutely banging matches on both cards, some really underrated matches as well. But I must admit, this Shinkiba card really, especially once we get to those Dreamstar Grand Prix matches, really solid card. Everyone seems to be really, I don't know, almost knocking it out of the park. I mean, you've got Nagisa Nozaki, who, no disrespect to Nagisa Nozaki at all, but she's not exactly, in my top 5 favorite wrestlers in Marigold. And then she comes out and has an absolute banger against Nori. You've got Victoria Yuzuki wrestling as though her life depends on it to get her first victory. You've got Sari looking to single-handedly dismantle the entirety of Marigold's roster to prove that she's better than everyone. You've got Kazuna Tanaka, who seems to want to be the quintessential underdog. And then you've got Mai Sakurai attempting to pin Bozilla with the Goodwin elbow drop. This show had everything, and genuinely, it was a really entertaining show, wasn't it?
I was kind of hoping maybe they would have done Bozilla and Sakurai and like Korakuen Hall, like with the big video wall. And then when Sakurai hits the Goodwin elbow drop, they play like the ending theme to like Godzilla. Like that's how Godzilla died, and that's how Bozilla was finally finished. And like she had to get carted off, and they did a stretcher job. No, of course, I never want anybody to get hurt. That's obviously the joke with the Goodwin elbow drop that just seems to transcend year after year. But you're absolutely right, partner. This Shinkiba show was great. Mai Sakurai was over like $1,000,000. Like she is the new thing in Marigold, and they've done a great job getting her over to this level that nobody saw coming in. She's continuing to grow and grow and grow. And again, we'll get into it when we get into the Corkin show. She's right up there, as we're about halfway through this tournament. She's right up there at the one of the leaders of the star block. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this all falls out. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Every single one of these matches from this Shinkiba show was terrific, especially even match number 2, that 6-person tag with Misa Matsui, Utami Hayashishita, and Mirai versus Chikago. Kind of like your precursor getting in. Fantastic to talk about. And yeah, Shinkiba was very much like Corrigan Hall. That crowd was molten hot, my friend.
Yeah, they really were. And obviously, as we got to the main event, which was Mai Sakurai and Bozilla, they were really, really up for it. And to be perfectly honest, I think the Shinkiba crowd was actually a little bit better than the Corrigan Hall crowd. And we're going to get into that attendance very, very shortly, because I know that's been a topic for discussion on social media today. And it's something we'll sort of delve into. Shinkiba, though, on the 14th of September. It was live streamed on Wrestle Universe. 284 people in attendance, just 2 shy of their highest attendance at Shinkiba. It's also 2 more than their average attendance at Shinkiba for those who care. This was the 5th show at Shinkiba that Marigold have run. And one of the best bits of news is that now Ishikawa is back. We've missed her. We always do. And actually, it was brought up by Sonny Gutierrez on commentary during the Corrigan Hall show that she has really, really struggled the last couple of months with sort of stops and starts and fits and starts. And we've spoken about it on the podcast before, that whenever she seems to gain that momentum, she always sort of falls into that poor health, which is obviously, she can't help that, but it's such unfortunate timing. So it was really, really, really good to see her back in the mix. The results then for this Shinkiba show are as follows. We start with a 3-way match. Myla Grace defeated Minami Yuki and now Ishikawa, pinning Minami Yuki with the Michinoku driver in 6 minutes and 32 seconds. The aforementioned 6-woman tag match, which I'm glad you brought up, match, because yes, it was a fantastic match. Utami Hayashishita, Mirai, and Misa Matsui defeated Natsumi Shozuki, Miko Aono, and Chika Goto with the German suplex. Utami pinning Chika Goto in 7 minutes and 30 seconds. We've then got Star League action. Sari moving to 4 points, defeating Chiaki with the diving double foot stomp in 6 minutes and 57 seconds. Dream League action next. Koki Amore moving to 4 points, defeating Victoria Yuzuki, who remains on 1 with the Amethyst Butterfly in 10 minutes and 33 seconds. It's a Hatman show. We have to have a time limit draw, and that came in the Dream League on this show. Nori moving to 6 points, and Nagisa Nozaki moving to 3 points as well. That ended in a time limit draw in 15 minutes. Dream Star League match. Good grief, that was a mouthful, unnecessarily. Nanae Takahashi moved to 4 points, defeating Kizuna Tanaka, who's yet to pick up a win, with the Queen Bee-Bomb in 9 minutes and 56 seconds. And then in your main event, in the Star League, Mai Sakurai defeated Bozilla via countout in 11 minutes and 33 seconds. Matt Turner, it's been a really, really, really interesting tournament. Lots of shocks happening. Obviously, we had Mai Sakurai, who seems to be the surprise package in this entire tournament. And spoilers, she actually sits at the top of Star League, with obviously this victory over Bozilla. She holds the tiebreaker over Bozilla. She holds the tiebreaker over Nanae Takahashi as well. So she is in front via tiebreakers. Obviously has that loss to Sari, still has Miko Ano to wrestle as well. It's all coming good for Mai Sakurai, isn't it, Matt?
Yeah, it really is. And even regardless if she was to lose the next few matches and not make it through the tournament again, I have her my winner of the Star League. Regardless of what happens, you know she's going to have continue to have great matches. And she's somebody that is going to be a main event star for Marigold. And that's something that really Marigold needs. They're really lacking at this point, kind of like big star power. But they're not, but we see, pardon me, we see a lot of people that are ready on deck for it. Like, in my opinion, like, you have wrestlers that obviously are going to main event these shows and do well. But in my opinion, now that you don't have Julia, you only have one major star in this company, and that's Utami Hayashishita. Mirai is right just about there. Sakurai, Miko Ano, Natsumi Shozuki, they're all right there as well. They're all so close. But you need that big, huge star, that draw, that no matter what match you're going to put them in, people are going to be interested in it. And to me, at least right now, it's Utami Hayashishita, but they have a lot of wrestlers on deck. And it seems like Mai Sakurai has pushed her way to the front of that, the front of that level. And rightfully so. I mean, she's earned that spot. You can tell just how much a better wrestler that she is, show in, show out. And this was a great showing for Bozilla. And at the end of the day, it's the crowd that is going to vote how over you are. And again, yeah, you're absolutely right, partner. The crowd was hot for every single match here in Chikiba. They were hot for every single wrestler. But nobody got more over than Mai Sakurai. From her entrance to the middle of the match to the finish. I mean, she won. This was a main event match, and she won by countout. And people didn't care. They just wanted to see her win. That is the art of a true over babyface. And give credit to Bozilla because she did her job as a heel, even though a lot of people do cheer her because she's, the big monster heel. Like, back in the day, a throwback here. Stan Hansen's Invaders, they would get cheered because they were so cool. But at the end of the day, they wanted to see the Masawas get the win. They want to see the Inokis get the win. And here, Mai Sakurai is, she's the underdog babyface that everybody loves. And she gets a win by doing the Paradise Lock on the outside and beating the count. And it was a great match, but there's not a lot of shows nowadays that end in a time limit drop or a count out or disqualification. This show and this match ended in a count out. And it made sense, and it got over. The people popped for it because of the ride and the story that Bozilla and Mai Sakurai took you on. Great way to end what was ultimately a solid show. And Mai Sakurai, again, I'm really excited to see what she's going to be doing in that match with Miko Ano. Because if she gets a win or goes to the time limit draw, you have a ready-made challenger for the Pure White Belt Championship. And I'm all for it because Mai Sakurai has been wrestling nothing but lights out these last 2 months.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an interesting point you've brought up because with the absence of Julia, who is, of course, that international level star, you are missing that in Marigold. And we've talked a lot about how you replace that. And I don't think you can replace Julia. She is a very unique character. She's a very unique wrestler. She has a very unique charisma. But you don't have anyone at the moment on Utami's level. And we are going to talk a little bit about this on the Corrigan Hall show because it's very interesting, the story that they are going for with Utami. And I quite like the story that they're going with Utami because they are trying to... Oh, thank you so much.
Oh. You're welcome, buddy. I'm glad I can help you out with the dulcet tones of my voice, talking about lariats and countouts, buddy. I'm glad I can help you.
Kirsty has just bought me a cup of tea to podcast with. She is lovely. But yeah, so it's more a case now of because Utami is that huge star, she is sort of the person that everyone has pinned Marigold on the shoulders of. And you've got the likes of Mirai, who is certainly the number two. And I'm not counting Sari in this because Sari is a freelancer. But, are Marigold going to suffer because of that absence of star power. And that, I think, is a really interesting conversation to have, certainly after the Korakuen main event, when we talk about sort of the lay of the land in regards to Mirai and Utami, and that, whether that pressure, in storyline anyway, whether that pressure of carrying Marigold is getting to Utami, because it's now Sari who's called her out for that, and her performances in the tournament so far, which is, at least results-wise, have been indifferent. To put it mildly. And then you've got Mirai, who called her out at the end of the Korakuen Hall show. So it's very interesting that your big star at the moment, your only star, as you put it, and I don't mean only star, that's not fair, and that's
major
yeah.
star. And there's only a handful of them all in wrestling, folks. This isn't just, this is, and again, and I'm sorry not to interrupt your partner, but you made a lot of good points. And I just want to point out, this takes time. This is a brand new company. This takes time. Again, the Natsumi Shozukis, the Miko Anos, we rant and rave about how great they are, and they're phenomenal in the ring. Mm-hmm. But does that translate to ticket sales? Yes and no a little bit, but it's going to take time. Do I foresee them getting there? Yes, because who is the one with the pencil? The Hat Man, Rasi Ogawa, is an absolute genius. And the production quality, and we'll get into it when we talk about Stardom, the Korakuen show, because the production quality, those little video packages they did leading to each and every match was chef's kiss. It's all right there. It's just going to take time. But as for right now, I think what me and Rob are saying, the only big major star they have is Utami Hayashishita.
Yeah, and by star I meant ace. You've got that high caliber level talent who sort of, you picture as your figurehead. And I just find it interesting that in the absence of Julia, you've got Utami, and the storyline at the moment is that she's underperforming in storyline. I just find that really interesting. And whether that's so that you can then have some of the other roster members approach that level as well, that's something we can discuss a little bit later on. But let's talk then about some of these block matches. But before we do, actually, let's talk about this 6-woman tag match, because I know you were a big fan of this. I was a big fan of this. There's almost an unfair amount of talent in the ring on this undercard tag. So just to remind you, there is 3 champions in this match, none of which are Utami, by the way. Mirai is a twin-star champion, Miko Ano, who's the United National Champion, and Natsumi Shozuki, who's the Superfly Champion. This is a really, really fun sprint to not open the show, but sort of lead us into the tournament. I thought Miko Ano's and Natsumi Shozuki's almost sensual amount of relish in kicking Misa Matsui as hard as they possibly could really did entertain me. And then, of course, you've got the unrest between Mirai and Utami before they head into Korakuen Hall. This did everything it needed to, Matt, and more.
Yeah, one of the things I like to do is when I don't see these shows live, and kind of, because I'm just so busy with just everything going on in a good way, is that sometimes I forget like what matches are on what cards. So with this one, when all of a sudden the wrestlers are coming out, and I'm like, there's more talent? And by talent, I mean amazing talent. Like you have Goto, Miko Ano, Natsumi Shozuki. Then I'm like, oh, geez, who's on the other side? And it's like Mirai, Utami Hayashishita, and Misa Matsui. I was like, oh, man, like, wow. And then we're going into the Dream Star. Like, boy, what a great day today is. Like, what a great way to kick this off. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's some really, really cool double teams with just Chika Goto and our Miko Ano, Natsumi Shozuki. Again, with them just battering Misa Matsui. And I mentioned this maybe about a month or so ago with, I'm just a huge fan of Miko Ano and Natsumi Shozuki as a tag team. They were great on their run towards the finals of the Twin Star Tag Team Championships. And then you throw in Chika Goto, who's ever improving, who's so charismatic, so energetic. She's another one that in 6, 7, 8 months can be another one that's right there in line, right behind Utami Hayashishita as your next major star, because she's over. She's got a catchphrase. She's so energetic. I think once she melts that in with some more ring time, I think she's going to be another ready-made star. And it's only going to help her putting in the ring across Utami Hayashishita and a Mirai. But yeah, excellent stuff here with just everybody in the match. The Chika Goto and Utami Hayashishita exchanges, as we've seen in these tag matches and some of these singles matches, is really, really good. And Chika Goto is only going to get better being in the ring, as you know, as we're going to call her, the ace of this company, and Utami Hayashishita. A really, really good closing stretch with Utami Hayashishita and Chika Goto. 7 minutes and 30 seconds. Of course, I wish this would have went longer. Understand why that it only went 7 minutes and 30 seconds, because you have the Dream Star League matches to put more time in. But regardless, excellent tag stuff back and forth, with us almost getting a mini match in the finish with Utami hitting the air raid crash and that beautiful deadlift German to Chika Goto. Again, a really, really solid match that leads us into these Dream Star matches. I actually had it at 4 stars, partner. I liked it that much.
Yeah, I had it at 3 3/4 stars. I thought it was a really, really good way of sort of getting people hyped for this tournament, for building to Korakuen Hall as well. Misa Matsui and Chika Goto, I think, are two of the more interesting stories in this Dream Star Grand Prix. And I saw something on Twitter that said that Marigold have no stories going on. That's just not the case. I mean, we've already talked about Utami Hayashishita, which is one of the biggest stories. You talk about Sari as the world champion, but two of the biggest stories for me in this Dream Star Grand Prix are Misa Matsui and Chika Goto putting in these great performances, but still coming up short. And Chika Goto as well, you know, they brought it up on commentary in Korakuen Hall about the fact that she almost runs out of stamina in the match. And it's a case of, when is she going to get this victory, this big pivotal victory? Because at the moment, as I've already stated, she's putting in these good performances. You know, she's getting to 3/4 of the way through the match and looking strong, and then just something isn't quite clicking, at least and that's how the matches are structured. I think, again, you're building Chika Goto as a huge babyface. I know that you're a big fan of Chika Goto. I know that, the chant is incredibly over. What are your opinions on the fact that at the moment, Chika Goto is propping up her block, and Misa Matsui is actually already eliminated from the Dream Star Grand Prix and is the first one eliminated as well?
I liked it. Look, and me and you thought that Chika Goto and Koki Amare were going to be the first Twin Star champions. And now you look back on it and be like, let's hold the phone just yet. They're not ready just yet. Again, will they get there? More than likely. More than likely they're going to get there. And smart putting on MIRAI and Mai Sakurai, considering the fact, again, how great Sakurai has been, and MIRAI has been fantastic ever since we first seen her step into a Stardom ring a few years ago. But I like how, let's keep giving Goto more reps. We don't want to give her too many wins or too many big wins just yet. Let's slow build her. Again, she's somebody that's over with the Korakuen Hall crowd. Again, yes, she's go Chika. She's got great charisma. Everything is all right there. She just needs a little bit more time to fully develop. So I like the fact that she's not somebody that's getting her whole big wins in the block. I like the fact that she's not somebody that's beating the Utamis and the Mirais. Let's slowly build up Chika Goto. And she's getting there. She's getting there. And again, she's somebody that is just wildly popular with the Marigold crowd, and somebody that I can see maybe by the beginning of next year, maybe this time next year, is somebody that is going to be a big star for Marigold. So you don't want to burn the crowd out by over pushing her. And then it's just like, okay, now what do we do with her? Because she's not ready for that spot just yet. But again, I have full confidence that she will be ready, just because, one, look how much she's improved for the last 3 or 4 months. 2, we know Rossi Ogawa knows how to build stars. And 3, he's putting Chika Goto in the ring with wrestlers that are going to teach her and take care of her. Again, like a Mirai, like Utami Hayashishita, like a Miko Ano. So all of the tools are right there. It's just going to take some time to get there. But I can't wait, because, again, in 6-7 months, we're going to be talking about Chika Goto the way that we talk about a Mirai and a Miko Ano. I have full confidence in Marigold and in Chika Goto's wrestling ability.
Yeah, I agree. And again, the whole story with Misa Matsui in particular is the whole Superfly Championship, and to have the, I don't want to say David and Goliath story, but sort of the king underdog story is, you've got to knock that person down. I think it's, especially when you look at who is in each of those blocks, that Misa Matsui is the first one eliminated, and she is eliminated because of the tiebreak losses to Nanae and Bozilla. She's had 4 matches, she's only got 3 left. So the max she can get is 6 points, which would draw a level to Nanae and Bozilla, and she's lost to both of them. So, I think, it's that old Chris Jericho adage: you try and push everyone, no one gets pushed. And I think having stories for the wrestlers and building intrigue and building a background and building an organic push is more important than basically going, look, we have wrestlers, and throwing every single one at you, which isn't going to work. You've got Victoria Yuzuki, who is knocking on the door, being one of the, the best super rookies we've seen since Utami Hayashishita. But at the moment she's eating losses because we can't push everyone. And actually, the more she wrestles, the better she looks. People are going to start going, right, she needs to start pushing to the upper echelon. Speaking of Victoria Yuzuki, oh no, she's not next. It's Sari versus Chiaki. Sari versus Chiaki. Sari said in a post-match that this was an easy victory. I believe her exact phrasing was a piece of cake. Chiaki certainly put in a shift here, but I think it's fair to say that Sari won this match, Matt, without breaking too much of a sweat.
Yeah, I think Chiaki knew that this was going to be an uphill battle. So her being, one of the biggest, baddest heels in this company, she jumps Sari, uses a chair, a little bit too much in front of the referee for my liking, but that's neither here nor there. But once Sari gets going, she makes Chiaki pay. And boy, howdy, does she pay the piper? Because, Sari with the double stomps of forearms, eventually she hits this beautiful, beautiful basement dropkick into the fisherman suplex, and then puts Chiaki away with the double stomp. I had this at 3 3/4 stars, and I like how Sari's overly confident and almost I'm glad we're talking about this partner, but to me, she's coming out from these interviews maybe burying the talent at Marigold a little bit, again saying that a lot of this is kind of easy for her and she was going to be the ace of Marigold, and I think that's done on purpose because we are building to that Sari versus Utami Hayashishita match. Mm-hmm. And we know, again, we just mentioned it, Utami is the ace of this company. She can go to any wrestling company in the world and she will be propped up as a top star because she's terrific. And I think that this is where it's going, where it's almost like Sari, because she's the champion, and she's the one that defeated Julia via referee stoppage. And she's actually pinned Julia twice because she pinned her at the very first show at Fields Forever, and then defeated her via referee stoppage at Summer Destiny. So she has that claim, I have beaten your wrestler that's gone over to the big leagues over at WWE, not once but twice. I'm running through everybody here in this company who's going to stop me, and that's only going to make Utami Hayashishita when she steps up and eventually defeats Sari, which we all think that she's going to do, and she should, and become the red belt champion, the world champion. That's only going to make Utami Hayashishita a bigger star, and it's going to make this match a bigger marquee match. So I like this building that we're doing with Sari, where she's just a little bit too cocky. I don't think anybody's booing her because she's so great. When we get that one-on-one big singles match with Utami versus Sari, it is going to be molten hot in whatever arena they do, and it's going to be a big, big match. But ultimately, this was a fun match. Sari, she gets jumped in the beginning. Once she gets rolling, and puts Chiaki away. Again, solid outing, 3 3/4 stars, and it's really interesting to see the booking of Sari, because considering the fact that during the, and again, we'll get into it when we talk about Corkin, and I like how right before all these Dream Star matches happen, everybody comes out with the table, and because this way everybody, and Sonny and Stu did a great job putting it over on commentary at the Corkin Hall show, that everybody starts the show off with a little bit of a promo. Sari came out with the hat but never put it on, and to me, and I don't know if it was she just not a hat person or it didn't fit or whatever, but to me it was just maybe I'm a little too good for this. And to me, that adds a little bit towards the cockiness that they're going through with Sari, again, as she's beating member after member of this roster. So they eventually get to that big clash with Utami Hayashishita. So I really, really like that, and I'm really excited for that story. And again, to everybody online saying that Marigold's not doing stories, I like this story. This is a clear story for me that they're doing with Sari. She's the champion, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, she's not signed, as far as we know, to Marigold, but the MIRAIs, the Mai Sakurais, and the Utami Hayashistas are. They are the homegrown talent. that they're basically going to be building Sari up against.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what I was talking about with stories. You've got a story with Chikugoto. You've got a story with Utami Hayashishita. You've got a story between Misa Matsui and with Natsumi Shozuki. And you've got this story with Sari, this sort of arrogance. And actually, you could have just fallen into the trap of Sari is a big star, a name, and that's why we've put the title on it. But actually utilizing the fact that she is a freelancer and not going to be on every show, almost like, I know that the Brock Lesnar thing was very divisive when he didn't turn up on different shows. Well, on pretty much any show. But the fact that when he did then show up, it did feel special. And that's almost what they're doing with Sari, and Sari's aloofness and belief that she is above the other people in Marigold. It really does add to the desire of the crowd to want to see her dethroned. However, she's that good that there is a respect there as well. It's not, go away heat. It's not even heat to a certain extent. It's like, right, we understand that you are a fantastic wrestler, okay? Who's going to step up to beat you? And that's a really, really cool story, because actually you are in the process of building the likes of Mirai, especially, to that level. And that's someone that I'm really excited to look into in a little bit of time as well. Good match, but one that Sari wins relatively handily. Koki Amare is on a little bit of a tear at the moment. She beat Victoria Yuzuki to get back-to-back wins. What was your opinion of this, Matt? And do you think Victoria Yuzuki managed to... do you think that she's that desperate to channel her inner Mayu Iwatani that she must fall over? That was my thought, because her in-ring entrance is very elaborate. And the moment she fell, the one thing I thought was, that was very Mayu of her.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but who was her mentor?
That's
very,
what I
very
mean.
early. Yeah,
That's what I mean.
We're connecting the dots, folks. That's what we do here on the Marigold Standard. Yeah, that was pretty cool, Ken. But I like this match because it started with a big lockup, buddy. I always can get into a big lockup, but very much Koki Amare uses this running Yakuza kick, very much like how Mayu Iwatani uses the super kick. Used as a defensive move and uses it as an offensive move. We've been seeing this the running boot, whether she does it with her opponent running at her running at her opponent, or very much like El Generico, Sami Zayn, the Halua kick in the corner. So I like how she basically builds her offense around that one move. And then she just builds into a lot of the other stuff that she does. She's been using the past couple of shows this Ripcord Ace Crusher, which I really like. I think it's really cool because when you're using a Ripcord move like that, when you're pulling your opponent in, you're controlling where they land. So this way she can hit that move anywhere she wants into the ring. And I think it's really cool when she sets herself up for the Amethyst Butterfly. Again, it makes sense because she wants to be like maybe 3/4 away from catty corner in the ring to hit that beautiful twisting splash, the Amethyst Butterfly splash. So she can use that cutter to set up her opponent right where she needs to be in a psychology way. So I really like that. Victoria Yuzuki's tremendous. Like, we know she wasn't going to be getting a lot of wins in this tournament, but we knew that she would be getting over, not by going over, but just by how talented she is in the ring. And she's having a great tournament. Granted, she's not running away with it. Granted, more than likely, when we get to that final night, she'll be already eliminated from competition. But considering the fact she's only been wrestling roughly around a year, and she's having this good of a showing, just really goes to show you what great upside that she has. And again, the fact that she's in Marigold, she's having these longer matches, which we probably wouldn't have seen her have if she was staying in Stardom, because she would have got lost in the shuffle, where this is where her best development is. And we've seen it in the forefront, especially these last 5 or 6 weeks, and especially in teaming with Kazuna Tanaka. Regardless, this was a great match. This basically gave me some thoughts about how I would love to see a tag match with Yuzuki and Tanaka versus Amare and Chikugoto. Because when you put these elements in, in this match, and I'm glad that it got 10 minutes to tell a story. Again, Victoria Yuzuki, regardless of her trying to challenge her inner Mai with the entrance. Let's see, Rob, as we're getting into the further months of this year, that if she starts throwing things like maybe a football or a soccer ball into the audience, then we'll know that she's definitely challenging her inner Mai, which sometimes is a good thing, sometimes a bad thing, folks. That's another story for another day. Ultimately, though, I thought this was a really great match, a good back and forth 50-50 match with eventually Koki Amare hitting a pair of those big running Yakuza kicks that sets her up for the big splash from the top rope. I had this one at 4 stars.
Moving on, then we go to Nagisa Nozaki and Nori, and as I said, like, everyone seems to be upping their game, and that's one of the beauties of tournament wrestling. And Nagisa Nozaki is someone that has been doing that. Great match with Utami, a really good match with Natsumi Shozuki as well, and then comes out and has a really good match with Nori where she's the aggressor, which surprised me. I expected this to be very strike heavy, and it was great for that. Some really, really, really destructive kicks. But to see Nagisa Nozaki being the aggressor, and aside from perhaps the final 2 minutes where it looked like Nori could sneak the win, it did very much feel like Nagisa Nozaki's match to lose. Were you surprised with the dynamic of this match and the fact that Nori wasn't built as your strongest competitor here, especially as she's someone that we are focusing on in terms of the strength in her strikes and that MMA experience?
The way this match was built was very interesting to me. Again, Nori she's a freelance. She works for LLPW, so she's not part of the Marigold roster like Nagisa is. So we've seen Nori have great outings, and not only in this tournament thus far, but obviously she's pretty much almost stole the show at that 6-person tag match at Summer Destiny, right?
Yeah.
So she's built up so well already early in this tournament that now we got Nagisa Nozaki, who's somebody that we're building in a different way because she's like one of the very clear heels in this company, right? So when you look at the way this was going, you're absolutely right, partner. Nagisa was on the offensive for a little bit more than Nori was, considering the fact that Nori is an absolute killer with the grappling, the MMA experience, the catch wrestling, the submission wrestling, and her strikes are just absolutely blitzing and blinding. But it was Nagisa that was kind of just taking everything that Nori had and countering it, and then giving her own way of violence. We saw a ripcord Yakuza kick. We saw the question mark kick that she does when she's on the apron. She took Nori chair bowling, so she basically took Nori out of her own element to go to the more hardcore style of wrestling that Nagisa kind of tends to do very well on this roster. Ultimately, though, I liked how we built as we're getting to the last minute. It looked like Nori was going to be able to put Nagisa away because, again, when you have that MMA experience, all it takes is one kick, one shot to the head, or one being able to catch a body part to put that person in a submission to get them to either tap out or to get a 3 count or for the referee to say that person's knocked out. So it was really cool how Nori was on the back foot majority of this match, but she really put the pedal to the metal towards the end to try to get that one glancing blow to put Nagisa away. Ultimately, it goes to the time limit draw. And I say this all the time, if this was an MMA style judging system, where it goes to it goes the full 15 minutes, the full TLD, and you have to vote somebody as a judge to win this match. If I was a judge and I was voting, I would have given it to Nagisa Nozaki, which is genius because you're building her up in this match and in this tournament. Again, is she going to be somebody that is going to win her block? No offense, probably not. But you got her over in this match with a buzzsaw that is Nori. Ultimately, great match. I gave this one 4 stars, very much like I did the last match, and I really like the way they built up Nagisa Nozaki in this match.
Yeah, I agree. I have no problem with the time limit draw. Again, you want to try and, build your roster and build your talent. Giving Nagisa Nozaki that victory over Utami certainly started doing that, having a go toe-to-toe against someone who has the background that Nori does have helps to build her as well. I think Nagisa Nozaki is doing some of the best work that she's done in Marigold. I know that that's not, an incredible amount of work considering that the company's only been a thing since May, but I think she is doing some of her best stuff in this tournament. Nori, I believe the exact phrasing at Korakuen has been a breath of fresh air And that's something that Sonny said that Rossi Ogawa has said. I think if there is a chance of signing Nori to a full-time deal, I would be desperately looking to do that, because she has been someone who every match she has had, she hasn't just knocked it out of the park. The park is a dot in the distance. This match here, a match with Natsumi Shiozuki, which, you know, we knew was going to be great because both women hit like boats. It's ridiculous. She had that great match that went to the time limit draw with Mirai as well. She's just hit it again and again and again. And if I was the Heartman, I would be looking at what is needed to tie Nori down, because I'd be very excited to see her on more Marigold shows aside from this tournament.
Rob, should we take up a GoFundMe for Marigold, very much like how we offered to do for Tomoka Inaba with Stardom? Should we do that for Nori? Because their styles are very similar to the same, and very much like Tomoka stole the show at the 5-star that just ended. Nori is like stealing the show at the Dream Star. So, yeah, just let us know, folks, if we need to start a GoFundMe. Me and Mr. Goodwin will do everything we possibly can.
Exactly. If you need help, guys, we understand. We're more than willing to pull together and raise like $30, $40. I mean, that's probably the length that I can get to, definitely. Moving on, we move to Nanae Takahashi versus Kazuna Tanaka. I love Kazuna Tanaka, not just because she's fantastic considering she's only 19, but also the fact that she is, when we did our separate reviews of the previous night of the Dream Star, I believe I referenced, was it Victoria Yuzuki? Yes, it was Victoria Yuzuki versus Utami. And I referenced Victoria Yuzuki as the Marigold version of Whack-A-Mole, because every time you hit her, she just came back up. And that's exactly what Kazuna Tanaka does here. In the face of adversity, constantly being hit with this brick wall that was Nanae, that for vast swathes of this almost 10-minute match, just nothing was working. The drop kicks weren't taking her off her feet. The strikes weren't taking her off her feet. And Nanae, at one point, I believe Kazuna Tanaka has her wrapped in the body scissors. And Nanae basically laughs in her face and pushes her down off her and goes, "No, you're going to have to do better than that." And she adapts that game, moves to the arm, and actually has a very, very, very close near fall with the Redream. And it's that sort of adaptation, that sort of story that Kazuna Tanaka is so capable of telling already at such a young age that makes her so compelling to watch. And again, Matt, someone looks better having been in a match with Nanae Takahashi, to the surprise of absolutely no one. I cannot believe how much my opinion of Nanae has changed. And I know that my opinion was solely based on a very, very half-hearted Stardom run. I understand that. But for the last 7 episodes of the Marigold Standard, I've said, I cannot believe this is the same person. And I said this with the Misa Matsui match. You know, she feels better. Even though she lost, she feels elevated from being in a match with Nanae. And I think the same rings true for Kazuna Tanaka here.
Well, you know why Nanae is wrestling better now than she was in Stardom, right, Rob?
Well, I believe it's probably the elevated amount of passion.
It's because of the passion, passion, passion. And that is a catchy theme. It really is a catchy theme. I have noticed, and maybe I'm wrong on this one, partner, and this is the Discord and the conversations I love having with you. I've noticed that her in-ring yelling is nowhere near as loud and often here in Marigold as it was in Stardom. Do you think it's because she's getting a majority of it out of her system during the entrance? Because I don't remember her yelling passion or yelling to the ring too much back in Stardom a few years ago. Obviously, from the time her music hits, and not only is she yelling passion, but the crowd is yelling it back, which is smart. You're getting the crowd involved. But it just seems like maybe she's toned down the yelling in the ring. Do you think that's because she's yelling she's getting a lot of out of her system on her entrance?
It could be that. It could just be a case of she doesn't feel like she needs to do that, because I spoke, especially during the Goddess of Stardom Tag League, Nanae wasn't getting reactions from the crowd. I don't know what it was, but if you go back and watch some of her run in 2022, 2023, there's very little reaction. And she notices it. You can see her notice it. And whether that's because of the history, or whether that's just because people were, done with the results and things, I don't know. I don't know what it was, but maybe the screaming in the ring, and that was trying to elicit some sort of reaction. But now in Marigold, she's getting the reaction from the crowd. She's, and I think that stems as well from her visibly enjoying herself. She's visibly having the absolute time of her life. I mean, she's probably not against Bozilla, where she's having, her head ripped off by a 21-year-old German powerhouse, but she's really, really excited by what she's doing, and you can tell. And I think that does permeate into the crowd. And maybe she just doesn't think she needs to do that anymore because of that, Matt. I mean, I'm spitballing. I'm quite literally speculating, but it would make sense.
I was kind of just joking, trying to keep things light here, maybe a few chuckles, but you're absolutely right. Nanae Takahashi, we say it every week on the show. We're going to say it again. She's just absolutely fantastic. What she's doing here in Marigold, not only for her career, but what she's doing to helping the younger talent out and helping this company out, show in and show out. Doesn't matter if it's a singles match, a tag match, a 6-person tag match. People are learning off her, and she's having great matches. And Nanae Takahashi really seems like a genius when it comes to these finishes, because she knows how to get the most out of her opponent's finishes and her finishes as well. Like, she understands the psychology of how to build it up. I mean, obviously, she's wrestling, I think they said on commentary at the Corkin show, 28 years. So she's been wrestling longer than Kazuna Tanaka's been on this planet.
Yeah.
So she's doing, and again, this was great. Kazuna Tanaka, very much like the matches with Bozilla, was just like, I don't care. I'm going to throw caution to the wind. I'm here. I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to give it 110%. And she does it here with Nanae Takahashi. And you're right. Nanae Takahashi, she's making her work towards getting to take that big bump or that first bump or to be selling a little. Eventually, Victoria Yuzuka, third time's the charm, Matt. Kazuna Tanaka is able to finally put Nanae Takahashi down with a pair of missile dropkicks, and then she locks in a really great Fujiwara armbar that Nanae Takahashi does a great job selling and emoting. And obviously, you not only see pain in her face, but you see a little bit of like, oh my goodness, like, can I lose? I might lose here to this person that's only 19 years old, and I may drop my second fall here in the Dream Star. Like, you can just see there's panic on her face when she's being put into that armbar. Eventually comes back with a brutal stiff slap and a beautiful belly to back suplex. Kazuna Tanaka then blocks a lariat and then goes for the armbar once again, but instead of going for the armbar just for the submission, she uses the arm to roll through into a pinning predicament, which I really, really liked. It was almost like, I'm going to change up my strategy here. I'm going to the arm, but instead of going for a submission, let me try to see if I can sneak one here. And she almost does. And then Nanae Takahashi does a great job of kicking out at the last second. Eventually, she realizes she needs to put the pedal to the metal. At this point, though, the crowd is really chanting for Kazuna Tanaka. Again, that just goes to show you what a great pro Nanae Takahashi is, getting Kazuna Tanaka over, even though she's not going over in the match. Nanae blocks the Redream, hits a German suplex lariat combination for a 2 count, and then puts Kazuna Tanaka away with the Queen Bee Bomb. Really excellent stuff. And again, this is just another example of Nanae Takahashi. Even though she gets the 3 count here, she gets Kazuna Tanaka over. And again, it's the crowd is the ones that are involved in the match. They're chanting for Kazuna Tanaka the last few minutes of this match. Really solid stuff. 3 3/4 stars for me.
Moving on then to our main event, and Mai Sakurai, what a tournament she's had. We've already talked a little bit about it, Matt, but obviously beating Bozilla with the the best move in pro wrestling, apparently, the Paradise Lock. There was a moment when they were on the ramp where I didn't think Mai Sakurai was going to get her over. I was like, we're on 17 and Mai hasn't been able to get Bozilla over yet to properly lock in the Paradise Lock. Are we going to get an accidental double count? And then she managed it. But the fact that Mai Sakurai then cuts a promo with Bozilla still stuck on the ramp in the Paradise Lock position. Genuinely, I think I found that more funny than I should have done. But overall, I really enjoyed the fact that Mai Sakurai effectively was a punching bag for Bozilla for 10 minutes of this 11.5-minute match, but still had those pockets of offense that made you think, actually, she's not scared. She's not backing down. And again, she comes out of this smelling of roses, doesn't she, really?
Yeah, and whoever's idea that was for Mai Sakurai after the match is over in the main event, as Bozilla's still trapped in the Paradise Lock, for her to cut the promo, I think is genius, because that just adds, again, Bozilla's the biggest, baddest heel. Not only heel, baby, she's the biggest badass in this company, and she's presented as so, from her entrance to the theme song, to the way she screams in the ring, the way that her promos are just her yelling obscenities that we can't say on the show, but that's the way that she's presented. Well, Mai Sakurai has to figure a way around that, and she tries by jumping Bozilla to start this match. That goes well for her for about 40 seconds, and then Bozilla, yeah, you're absolutely right, really just dominates this match. But at the end, it's just you're building more sympathy up for Mai Sakurai, again, very much like we saw in the co-main event, where Kazuna Tanaka is getting the sympathy built towards her because the bigger, badder, harder hitter in Nanae Takahashi is really beating her down, but she's showing fight. She's showing fighting spirit. That's what the Japanese audience likes to see. They like to see that fighting spirit. And we saw it with Sakurai here. She takes a running 3 from Bozilla that was just so brutal and so well done that when Sakurai kicks out, it's like the loudest pop of the entire show, because the people want to see Sakurai rally behind. Or they want to rally behind Mai Sakurai to see if she can get this upset win over Bozilla. Eventually, Bozilla tries for the F5. Sakurai counters with the with the DDT on the F5, and then Mai Sakurai hits the Shining Black. Then she goes to the top rope with a Goodwin elbow drop. I thought that was all she wrote. Tournament over for Bozilla. Bozilla somehow kicks out. I thought it was a slow count. That's just out of for me. Then Sakurai puts Bozilla into the STF. What a visual that is! And the crowd was so molten hot for a tap out there. I mean, that was something. Eventually, though, Bozilla is able to come back. She hits the F5, dominates Mai Sakurai. They go to the outside, and Sakurai is able to just outsmart one Bozilla and locks the Paradise Lock in. This was a great match, my favorite match of the show, 4.25 stars. And again, whoever's idea that was for Sakurai to cut the promo at the end of the show with poor Bozilla. We can't say poor Bozilla. She's the heel here, but Bozilla's still trapped in the Paradise Lock. Because not only is she angry that she's trapped in this lock, not only is she angry that she got counted out, she lost this match, she won't get 2 points, but now it's now she's gonna cut a promo on me. That is just absolutely hilarious, and it adds to the character and the on deck main eventer that is Mai Sakurai. Yeah, great stuff. 4.25 stars. A really great match to end what I thought was a fantastic show, buddy.
So we move on then to Corrigan Hall, Monday the 16th of September, night 4 of the Dreamstar Grand Prix. 755 people in attendance. That's a number that I am getting on, at least on Twitter. Nothing officially confirmed as of yet. Of the 5 times that Marigold have run Corrigan, it's noticeably their lowest. A couple of things just to note before we sort of talk about that attendance, because especially during the pre-show match, which I thought was the start of the main card, there was an alarming amount of empty seats on the hard cam. But it was a national holiday. Now, that can work one of 2 ways. Either you're going to have lots of people who come to the wrestling, or you are going to have no people that come to the wrestling because they're spending time with their family. So it can be a positive and it can be a negative. It was also the afternoon as well, so there is that to factor in as well, that people will still be out on day trips and things like that. However, I am sure that Marigold will be disappointed with this number. Especially after, obviously you've had, 1,450, I think, that they got in Corrigan Hall for Julia's final show. You'd got 818 for the Summer Gold Shine show. You'd got 985 back in June. And then obviously the 1,535, which, again, was sort of that big explosion onto the scene. But 755 people, Matt, Mirai and Utami in the main event, your red and white belt champion against each other for the first time in the semi-main event. I think it's fair to say that Marigold will be disappointed, won't it?
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at that number and be like, ooh, like Julia's, a lot of that's Julia's departure, right?
That
Again,
was why I was
Utami's
going to
your
ask.
only...
That was my next question, and that was why I sort of brought that up earlier in the show, because my literal next question to you was going to be, how much of that is we've got Utami, but who else is at that level?
Yeah, that's it. If you're asking me to pinpoint what it is, it's that, because I was looking at this card, I'm like, this is insanely loaded, and we're in Cork and Hall, which they're always loud for everything, whether it's Dragon Gate, New Japan, Stardom, Marigold, obviously, where our expertise lies is Marigold and Stardom, and the crowd is relatively hot for just about any wrestling. They want to see wrestling. They're very, for lack of a better term, passionate fan base. They love pro wrestling. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Once basically the pre-show match started, I was like, oh geez, this is wow. There's a lot of empty seats. And then once we got into the Misa Matsui versus Chiaki, the first match, they started to fill a little bit more. Yeah, I see your point. I'm not going. You're right. You're absolutely right. They're going to be disappointed with that number, considering the fact of how big this card was as far as wrestling goes. We're a positive podcast, Mr. Rob Goodwin. You made a lot of good points. I'm not going to beat it down. I'm sure they're going to be fine. I'm going to make two very, very positive points, and then if you want to, we can roll in the show. 755 people. To me, watching the show, that crowd was so loud, it felt like there was 2,000. I will say this, because they were molten hot for everything. They had a really good time. And I'll say this, as far as a pure wrestling show goes, from start to finish, for what I like in wrestling, this is like a top 15 show for me. Like, not from Marigold, from all wrestling companies that I've seen, whether it's WWE, New Japan, All Japan. I don't watch that much All Japan, but you know what I mean. Stardom. I don't know. I'd have to really sit down and think about it. I don't think I've seen 15 shows better this year as far as pure wrestling goes. And I will even say, other than Summer Destiny, from a wrestling standpoint, this was the best show Marigold has ever put on. So regardless of how many people were there or weren't there, this was a phenomenal, phenomenal show. And if I was at this show, and you were like, man, I'm not going to go to it, I would have been on my phone and I'm like, dude, I don't know what you're doing at the barbecue or you're at the pool or whatever you're doing, but you missed a fantastic show. And I'm hoping that each and every one of these 755 people, they called their friends that weren't at the show and said, you missed a damn good show, because this was a damn, not good show, a great show, partner. This was phenomenal.
I think, obviously, aside from the disappointment surrounding the attendance, this shows a huge positive. I mean, we talked about stars being made, who is on the level of Utami. I would argue that Mirai is, if not neck and neck now with Utami, certainly up there. You've got Miko Ano, who, in my humble opinion, had her best performance in a Marigold ring against Sari. And that includes a stellar series of matches with Mirai. You've got Nanae and Takahashi and Bozilla, who, again, absolutely smashed it out of the park, managed to follow up so well from their match in Korakuen Hall a couple of months ago, where Bozilla basically just absolutely destroyed her. You've got Nori and Natsumi Shozuki, who just seemingly wanted to kick the ribcage out of the other person. Brilliant. You've got Victoria Yuzuki and Chika Goto desperately vying for that first tournament win, and you've got all the history between them and that aggression between them. Overall, I thought, from an in-ring standpoint, you can have no complaints about this show. It's a really, really, really good show. Now, if I may just go back to the attendance just for 2 seconds, I'm sure that Marigold will have thought, we're probably going to lose a bit of attendance, losing a huge international star like Julia. Okay, I am sure that they thought this. And that could be one of the reasons that they are sort of delaying putting the belt on Utami, delaying that rise to the top for Utami, so that you can elevate other people to that level. Because you're right, we spoke about it at the start. There's only Utami that's on that level. Mirai is certainly getting there. If you give it 2-3 months, you have the potential then to have Mirai on that level, to have Miko Aono on that level, to have someone like a Mai Sakurai on that level. I think if you were to pull the trigger on Utami at the moment, have her dethrone Sari in the next month, who is there then to challenge Utami, who is realistically going to take that belt off her? I think Marigold are looking to compensate for the loss of Julia, are looking to establish stars. And don't forget that they have got a lot of people coming through the dojo and new stars coming through, new wrestlers coming through. We've got ones coming through in New Year Dream 2025, First Dream. Stardom's is New Year Dream. Marigold's his first dream. You've got Minami Yuki, who's just come through. You've got Naoya Ishikawa, who's just come back from injury. I don't know where, by the way, Komomo Minami is. She hasn't been on any of these shows, and I haven't seen anything. So I don't know whether she is just having a rest through this tournament and training a bit more. But I haven't seen anything in regards to an injury, but it's something I meant to point out earlier. Basically, what I'm saying is I am sure that Marigold thought that they would take a hit with the absence of Julia, is basically my point. Anyway, let's move on to the results from this Korakuen Hall show. We open with a four-way on the pre-show. Koki Amare defeated Minami Yuki, Naoya Ishikawa, and Myla Grace, submitting Minami Yuki with the double chicken wing in 5 minutes and 44 seconds. We've got just tournament action now. We opened with Star League tournament action. Chiaki getting her first win of the tournament, reversing a Frankensteiner to pin Misa Matsui in 6 minutes and 28. And as I mentioned, making Misa Matsui the unfortunate person to be the first person in history eliminated from the Dream Star Grand Prix. Dream League action, Victoria Yuzuki picked up her first tournament win, defeating Chika Goto with the rolling arrow in 6 minutes and 35 seconds. Star League action, Mai Sakurai moved to 6 points, defeating Kazuna Tanaka with the STF in 8 minutes and 6 seconds. Dream League match, Nori moved to 8 points, defeating Natsumi Shozuki with the step-up Insaguri in 11 minutes and 11 seconds. Star League action, Nanae Takahashi gained a little bit of revenge for her Korakuen Hall battering a couple of months ago, beating Bozilla with the phenomenally named Passion Package, which apparently is the name of her roll-up, and I've never thought a move has a better name. 8 minutes and 48 seconds that. Star League action, Sari and Miko Aono ended in a time limit draw, 15 minutes, both women moving to 5 points. And then in your main event, the Dream League match, the main event that we were all looking forward to, Mirai defeating Utami Hayashishita with one of about 25 blistering lariats from both women in 10 minutes and 30 seconds. Nothing wrong with the four-way at all, Matt, but we're going to focus solely on tournament action on this card. We're going to start with Chiaki and Misa Matsui. Everyone has got to be eliminated at some point. You know, unfortunately, Misa Matsui has that unfortunate record in the books now forever that she is the first person in tournament history to be eliminated.
There you go, folks. So there is your trivia question in 5 or 6 years when Rob says, who was the first person eliminated from the Dream Star Grand Prix? It'll be probably the current red belt champion from 6 years from now, Misa Matsui. So there you go. There you go. I mean, well, who has the most losses in the history of the 5-star? Tam, who is the current red belt champion. See, folks?
True, yeah, absolutely.
With this match, it was kind of like, okay, this is your opener as far as, again, not with the pre-show, but as far as the Dream Star goes. And these two have completely different styles. Sometimes when you have different styles, it works. Sometimes it doesn't. And this worked because, again, Chiaki is more of the powerhouse, the hardcore wrestler, the hard hitter, does a little bit of cheating. And Misa Matsui is just, she's the speed star. So you kind of have the speed versus the slower that, Chiaki's going to want to grind you down a little bit. And it really worked. It really, really did. And Sonny and Stu did a great job on commentary talking about how Chiaki likes to watch older wrestling videos and tape and YouTube clips. And I was like, well, that makes sense because she uses the Von Erich claw. So I was like, yeah, there we go. Obviously I'm a huge fan of the Von Erichs. So yeah, I was like, yeah, that was really, really cool how they pointed that out. Yeah, but these two really worked well together. I wish this would have went like 9, 10, 11, 9, 10, 11 minutes so they can flush out their story. But regardless, I understand why we had to go under 7 because you have these other matches that are going to go longer, especially with the Bozilla, Nanae Takahashi, obviously Miko Ano, and Sari. So I get that, but I thought, again, considering the fact these two wrestlers were two completely different styles, sometimes that can make for a mess of a match where this wasn't. They were able to play to their strengths and weaknesses, tell a really good story, and Chiaki actually uses Misa's speed against her, able to roll through the Rana to get the 3 count. Really, really solid stuff here. 3 3/4 stars, and a really great way to start the show as far as tournament action goes, partner.
Moving on then, Victoria Yuzuki defeating Chika Goto. Yuzuki is such a breath of fresh air on these cards. She really is, because she attacks every single match in exactly the same way with such an unrelenting passion that sometimes it can just be overwhelming. We saw it against Utami Hayashishita back in Toyama, where at one point it looked like the fact that Yuzuki was just unrelentingly attacking her looked like it was in danger of just sort of overpowering Utami at one point. But here it does become a case of it becomes too much for Chika Goto. And I thought the conversation that the commentary team were having about Chika Goto, which I mentioned earlier in the episode, was an interesting point to make. The fact that basically we are, at the moment with Chika, she is putting in these good performances, but when are these good performances going to turn into results? Because, you look at those 2 back-to-back tag matches against Julia and Nanae, and then with Nanae against Arisa and Sari. Great performances, 8 the pinfall in all. 4 matches now, and 4 losses in the Dreamstar Grand Prix. She's eliminated now, is the only person eliminated from Dream League. She's won 3 singles matches, but has lost 5, lost 4 on the bounce. When are these performances going to yield results? And is it a lack of stamina that is leading to this lack of results? Because again, a really good performance against Yuzuki, not able to get the pinfall win.
Maybe that's, again, another story that we will see. Maybe it's an Utami Hayashishita that takes Chika Goto under her wing. We know Utami, she's got that gas tank that's never ending. We've seen her those long matches with Sherry. We've seen her, several 20-plus minute matches when she was Red Belt champion over at Stardom. So the fact that they're kind of talking, saying Chika Goto is really good, but when it comes to the later rounds, she kind of doesn't have the gas tank to go. So they're clearly putting that into our head for a reason, and that's basically why she's losing these matches. So maybe it will take an Utami Hayashishita to kind of be able to help build her back up. That'd be very interesting to see, as eventually we're going to see maybe some factions being built over the next few months, because we know that Rossi likes his factions, and I would love to see obviously Utami's going to lead a faction if they do decide to go that route, and I'd love to see Chika Goto and Koki Amare underneath the wing of Utami Hayashishita. Yeah, it's very interesting to see. What was very interesting to see for me for this match, it seems like Victoria Yuzuki does not care too much for Chika Goto, partner, because she was very, very aggressive, a lot of yelling at the end of the match when she got the win. It was a great finish where Chika Goto goes for that big choke slam and it gets countered with the rolling arrow, and Yuzuki's able to catch her.
Really well done, yeah.
Very well done, considering the fact that you have a lot of rotations, and Yuzuki never gets caught in the ropes. I'm like, oh, which way is she going? Is she going to get caught in the ropes? She got great body control. She got great ring control, because if she does all those really cool rotations and herself or her opponent winds up in the ropes, guess what? The move didn't mean anything. You blew the big spot, where she really just never seems to get caught up in the ropes, and she's able to control her opponent. Just really goes to show you what a great wrestler she is. Again, only like a year and change into her career, but a really, really interesting finish. Again, blocking the choke slam from Chika Goto, and is able to basically use her own momentum against her to get to that rolling arrow for the 3 count. There's a really cool spot here where Chika Goto keeps using the hip attack, and then Victoria Yuzuki's like, I had enough of this, and she baits her into going for another hip attack, and then Yuzuki just properly drop kicks her right in the face. I thought that was a really, really cool spot. And then you see Chika Goto's able to build herself back up. Looked like she's going to put away Yuzuki, but again, Yuzuki catches her with the rolling arrow. Really, really solid outing from these two. And again, the future is really, really bright, not only for these two wrestlers, but for Marigold as well. With these two wrestlers, again, very young in their career, but in a year from now, you can see them main eventing big shows because these two are terrific. 3 3/4 stars for me, my friend.
Right, we move on then. We look to... Sorry, I'm just looking at the match order for something else. Ignore me. Moving on to Mai Sakurai and Kazuna Tanaka. And just actually, before we do move on to that, I just want to say you did bring it up, but the fact that we had those little video packages before each of the block matches, I think for Victoria Yuzuki and Chika Goto in particular, it really did help because obviously they have been... I don't want to say low-key feuding, but there has been that sort of bite between the pair on undercard tag matches on some of the Wrestle Universe shows. So the fact that that was highlighted ahead of this Corrigan Hall show and done so well, really appreciative of that. Mai Sakurai and Kazuna Tanaka, another spirited performance, Matt. Mai Sakurai, though, moving to the top of the block. Top of a block that contains Sari, Miko Aono, Nanae, Takahashi, and Bozilla, and she has the tiebreaker over two of them. What parallel dimension are we living in here?
Well, you know, when you have the Sakurai Bucks and the hat gimmick, obviously we know she's not doing that anymore. She's getting more serious. However, you still have that in your back pocket, just knowing the fact that you walk into a room, the same room as Rossio Gallo, the Hat Man himself, and you know you can probably out-hat the Hat Man. What does that do for your confidence when you go into these matches, Rob? Apparently a lot, because she's at the top of the block. Kazuna Tanaka, another great outing here. Unfortunately, she eats the L. This was a really, really terrific match. Really a nice back and forth 50-50 match. Really, there was no wasted motion. Everything that both these wrestlers did made sense. You could see Sakurai early on in the match is trying to grind Tanaka down with the headlock. Eventually, once Tanaka's able to kind of break free, she's able to use her striking and her submission game onto Mai Sakurai. We get some great stuff back and forth between the two. I like how Tanaka is able to build towards the Redream. She hits the Redream for a 2 count. Mai Sakurai is doing a great job showing that fighting spirit, which is what a lot of the main event wrestlers in Japan for forever, they have a great deal of that fighting spirit, that ability to be able to fight through adversity to put your opponent away. And she shows that fighting spirit, hits the running boot, hits the shining black, and then is able to use that to lock in the STF in the middle of the ring for the tap out. Again, the Masahiro Chono influence with the shining black, basically the step up Yakuza kick into the STF. It was shown to her by Masahiro Chono. She uses it here. Really great outing between these fantastic wrestlers. 3 3/4 stars for me, partner.
Looking ahead then, Nori and Natsumi Shozuki. This was one that I highlighted in the preview as a match that I was incredibly excited for because I thought, similar to the Nagisa Nozaki and Nori match, that this was just going to be two women trying everything they possibly can to hurt each other. And I'm so delighted that it was. The fact that it was highlighted that Nori wanted to win this with a kick, and it was highlighted very early on. And the fact that we had this match then where both women just wanted to prove that they were the superior striker led to such a violent match. Really, really good. This for me was the first really, really, really good match on this card. Really escalated the match quality. I was a big fan of the finish. I think the finish looked really destructive. I think Natsumi Shozuki, even though she's lost a couple of matches now, here lost absolutely nothing against Nori because she was able to take her to the limit, and it did take her doing something a little bit more special to actually get her the pinfall victory. This was one of my favorite matches on the card, Matt.
Yeah, this was absolutely terrific. I believe it was my second favorite match on the card. I like how this match starts out with like a low kick trade-off. And they're not like really throwing the low kicks. They're almost trying to gauge each other's distance to see like, okay, maybe if I step in a little to the left or a little towards the right, I'm able to get the striking advantage because they're so evenly matched up with the strikes where you can just kind of see like this is a big deal. Very much like the Mirai match that Nori had just a few weeks ago. I believe it was her first match in this tournament where they were grappling to see who's going to get the grappling advantage because they are so evenly matched. It just takes one mistake for the other one to have an opening. And that's what it was here. Like you can tell it's like, ooh, like they're training these low kicks just to kind of get the distance because you know it's about to explode. And it really did. These two were just back and forth with high octane offense. You have Natsumi Shozuki locking in the grounded octopus whenever she was able to get the advantage with the grappling, where Nori kept locking in the rear naked choke. And then these two started exchanging the soccer kicks back and forth. And then we see Natsumi Shozuki drops Nori with a knee strike, which that was really interesting because really the first time that we've seen Nori, again, who is trained by Shinobi Kandori. Yes, that Kandori. We really seen her be able to she ate like one strike and like went down. Again, if this was like a Muay Thai fight or an MMA fight, you would have been like, yo, this badass striker, she got hit with one rocking blow and she is down. Like, and that really brought the Corkin crowd up. Again, it was just that one move, and it was the way that Natsumi did it and the way that Nori sold it. That I thought was really, really interesting. Really great job with that. Again, folks, sometimes it's just the little things that you do that if you have both, the both people so far invested into it and they're committed to what they're doing, it just adds that much to the match. And again, that was that little knee strike for me. Again, these two are going back and forth. Eventually, we go to the outside where Natsumi Shozuki, I guess it's a big match. Natsumi Shozuki must hit the running Samato on the floor. Excellent stuff there. We get some back and forth trade off in the ring. And then we get a top rope fight, which we have Nori that is on the main part of the top rope. She hits a brutal head kick. I mean, you can just hear the thud, and Shozuki takes a bump, and then Nori follows up with a missile drop kick for a 2 count. We do see these two go back and forth with mid kick trade off. Natsumi Shozuki actually gets the better of that exchange once again, like we saw with that knee strike. Natsumi hits a head kick and then a spin kick for a 2 count. Eventually, though, it is the Nori hitting a 360 kick and the step up enziguri that almost KOs Natsumi Shozuki. Nori's able to get the 2 count and bumps herself up to 8 points. I had this at 4.25 stars and another phenomenal outing from Nori. And I have a feeling, partner, that when we do our complete review of this terrific tournament, that Nori is somebody that we're going to be talking about as one of, if not the overall MVP of this tournament, because this is another great showing from her.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, that victory does eliminate Chika Goto. So both Goto and Matsui are both eliminated from the Dream Star with 3 matches apiece left. Moving on, Nanae Takahashi against Bozilla. This was perhaps the best technical high-flying masterpiece I've seen since Ricochet and Will Ospreay. Of course it wasn't. It was 2 very, very aggressive, stubborn, densely aggressive individuals just bouncing off one another for 8 minutes. And it was so good. It was so good. I loved everything about this match. This is my jam right here. Just 2 women throwing down and going, right, I don't care about beauty. I don't care about choreography. I don't care about how pretty I look, how seamless transitions are. I'm going to hurt you. And I'm going to hurt you in the most realistic way I possibly can. I mean, at one point, we literally had the 2 women sitting across from each other with chairs and then just slapping each other in the face. It's what I want. It's what I want. It builds into the story of Nanae wanting to get that win back over Bozilla. It plays into Bozilla's character of, I don't really care about anyone, I just want to hurt people. I loved it, Matt. And the fact that, again, Bozilla has lost 3 singles matches now in Marigold. 2 of them via roll-up and 1 of them via nefarious Paradise Lock. It works because you're not going to overpower Bozilla. There's no one on this roster that's going to overpower Bozilla. So the fact that she is her own worst enemy, because she has this match won, pretty much, let's be perfectly honest. I mean, she gets that choke in on Nanae halfway through the match. You're like, oh my God, it's a replay of their last Korakuen Hall match. And she's able to toss Nanae around. Nanae, by the way, who, props to her, able to haul Bozilla into some of those back suplexes. Like, that cannot be easy. But Bozilla pretty much has this one. And then Nanae out of absolutely nowhere rolls her up in the passion package. Again, tremendous name for the win. I think this was really, really, really well done. We were wondering who is going to beat Bozilla and how they're going to beat Bozilla. And the two that have probably make the most sense, Matt.
Yeah, this was really, I mean, in the words of Jim Ross, this is bowling shoe ugly in the best way possible. And we knew that's what we were going to get, right? We knew that's what we were going to get. We got in spades. I mean, this thing starts off in a chop exchange. And then they do a little cork and hall brawl. And then they do, with the chairs. They call that the bar fight, my friend. And I don't think Cork and Hall has seen the bar fight that violent since the days of the Necro Butcher in Cork and Hall, where they, instead of the slaps, they would punch each other. If you just go on YouTube and type in Necro Butcher bar fight, it would be him and what other deathmatch wrestler, whether it's Japan or over here in the States, they would just sit there with two chairs already bleeding and just punch each other in the head until somebody falls off. That's what these two wrestlers did, and I have not seen that spot done in quite some time. And boy, howdy, was it scary in the best way possible. But yeah, you're right. Nanae Takahashi starts using a lot of those like snapback suplexes. She takes a brutal sit-out DVD from Bozilla, but ultimately Bozilla almost gets a little bit ahead of herself. Almost where you can see like the main reason why Nanae Takahashi won this match because of her experience. Bozilla throws like a very wicked lariat where Nanae Takahashi then is able to duck and then rolls her up. And again, the passion package. Put that on a shirt, Marigold. You'll sell a ton of those. He rolls her up in the passion package. Again, the main crux of this match is these two just beating the crap out of each other. I popped you, didn't I?
It's just it's the word. It's just the phrasing passion package. I don't know. It just makes me laugh.
There it is, and then it's like a silhouette of Nanae Takahashi rolling somebody up, but instead of being in a ring, it's in a pineapple.
Oh yes, there you go.
There it is. But ultimately, it's Bozilla's getting the better of Nanae Takahashi, which we've seen in the tag matches. And again, we saw at their last match at Cork and Hall that Bozilla is just using her size and strength to dominate Nanae Takahashi, where Nanae is like, I'm not going to play into that game because I know how this ends. It ends with me with the loss. And ultimately, she baits Bozilla in for that lariat and is able to, again, use her experience to get the win on Bozilla. Fantastic match. 4 stars for me, good sir.
Could not agree more. In fact, I liked it a little bit more than you. I actually gave this 4.25 stars. And so mark that off because it very rarely happens that I rate a match higher than Matt. Sari continues her absolute bludgeoning of the Marigold roster. And I noticed something that Sky Wrestling had put out about how the Star League is very much at the moment about surviving Sari. And I thought that was a really interesting phrase, surviving Sari, because obviously Jackie got blown away in under 7 minutes. Mai Sakurai couldn't hang with Sari, even though a valiant attempt was made. And here, Miko Ano, for vast swathes of this match, even though there was some hellacious kicks, and Sari threw one forearm in particular that sounded like a kick. It was that hard. Even though Miko Ano, like I say, held her own for little bits of this match, pockets of this match, if you will, it did almost become a case of how long is it before Sari gets the win? And we talked about it during the 5-star Grand Prix when Starlight Kid and Soriano managed to create the perfect timing for that time limit draw. And Matt, this was a very, very, very good time limit draw as well, because it was literally as the referee was about to count the 3 that bell sounded. It was beautifully done.
Yeah, that's very difficult to do, like to get there. We've seen wrestling, not just Stardom, not just Marigold, but wrestling all over. Sometimes it's really tough to do. Like the Ric Flair stuff back in the 80s and 90s was always really good at the time limit draw because Flair can just put you in the figure 4 and then you can just ride that out for the final minute, right? As long as that person, which is usually Ricky Steamboat, is doing the great job of selling, which Ricky Steamboat's one of the greatest sellers ever. But regardless, when you're hitting a big move, especially you're finished back to back, you want to be able to time that just right. And not only was it Miko Ano obviously taking it, and not only was it Sari, but it was the referee making sure he was able to count that maybe just a tad bit slower. So as he was coming down for 3, oops, the bell rang. So again, if it was just a half a second longer, Sari would have got the win here. Sari starts this match off just absolutely dominant, where Miko Ano is just like, you know what? I'm here too. I need to win. I need to win here too. I got 4 points in this tournament as well. I'm a champion in this company as well. I got a lot of respect for this company, and I'm going to bring it to you. And obviously, Miko Ano, I believe she trains at the K1 kickboxing dojo. I think that Sonny and Stu have said that before. And you can see it here because it gets to a point where she's just like, I'm not going to take this, and I'm going to fire back. And she has these 2 drop kicks in the corner that basically seats Sari. She goes over to Sari. She just keeps hitting these kicks in the corner, one after another, and you can just hear this thud. And we've seen Sari just so dominant since her return back to Japan a few years ago on the Sariism shows, on the 2 shows that she did for Stardom, and on all these Marigold shows. Again, Julia has 2 losses in this company, and they're both to Sari, right? And I know Victoria Yuzuki pinned her in the gauntlet, but you understand what I mean, partner. So Miko Ano is really doing a good job, like outstriking Sari. She's taking Sari's best shot and delivering one just as stiff. I like how Sari uses that top wrist lock, dragon sleepers, almost like a top wrist lock stretch plum. Shout outs to Toshiaki Kawada. I really like how she's adding that to her game, where she basically overstrikes her opponent and then goes into that move. I think it's really, really cool. And I like to see her get some wins with that move, whether it's tag matches or like underneath matches on some of these shows moving forward, because I think it would really add something much more to Miko Ano to make her even more a complete package than she is, to get some wins via submission. Again, especially with that top wrist lock stretch plum, as I'm calling it. These 2 just go back and forth with the soccer style kicks, with the penalty kicks, and then they start bringing in the sliding lariats, the forearms. I mean, it's really, really back and forth. And again, Miko Ano is taking Sari's best shot, and she's able to deliver, kind of going right back and forth. There's at one point where Sari just hits this double stomp, and then she hits one from the top rope, and she's just getting ready to try to put Miko Ano away. And she locks her up in the into the Uranagi, and Miko Ano just almost like collapses and then grabs the rope. And when she does, Korakuen Hall pops. It's not an offensive move. It's more of a defensive move. But the fact that Miko Ano is aware enough in this match that she knows she cannot be hit with this Uranagi, because if not, it's lights out. And she just kind of just like goes to her knees, grabs the bottom of the rope, and then is able to sell and emote that selling, that the crowd then pops, and then they start really pulling for Miko Ano in the final 2 minutes of this match. She's able to come back with a big lariat, and then a short arm clothesline, and then a sliding lariat for a 2 count. Eventually, Sari then is able to dump Miko Ano on her head for a 2 count. She hits her with a headbutt, a forearm, and then hits her with a second Uranagi. But however, not enough time as we go to the old TLD. Rob, I had this one at 4.5 stars, and I don't know what is my favorite match of this tournament. It's either this one or the Mirai versus Nori match. But regardless, this one has moved. It's one or the other. I don't know. Maybe it's recency bias because I just watched this show just about an hour or so before we hit the record button. I'm gonna have to watch these 2 matches back to back and let you know what is my favorite match of this tournament. But this was terrific, and the fact that then Sari cut a promo afterwards, basically challenging Miko Ano. Maybe that's going to be one of her defenses. Basically challenge the pure white belt champion to a match. The fact that eventually we are going to get a rematch of these 2, and probably without the time limit draw there, because it's going to be for probably the red belt, because she did hold it up. I'm all for it, buddy, because can you imagine like this intensity in a loud Korakuen Hall, but then instead of going 15 minutes, you're going 18 minutes, 19 minutes, 20 minutes, where basically you're stretching out the violence, you're stretching out the storytelling, you're stretching out, again, the fighting spirit. Man, I'm all for it, and I cannot wait to watch that one. Again, 4.5 stars for me, partner. I absolutely love this.
Yeah, 4.5 stars from me as well. I completely agree with everything you said. What I did enjoy is the fact that even though Sari was such, almost the aggression was too much for Miko Ano, Miko Ano was able to level the playing field by attacking that wrist. And the fact that Stu and Sonny on commentary were linking that back to how Sari won the belt in the first place by targeting Julia's the same injury, that discal fracture in their wrist. I thought that was a really good callback as well, and sort of really played on that history as well. Mirai versus Utami. We've already discussed sort of the permutations and where this leaves Utami, sort of coming out of this, because Mirai winning this is a huge moment for Mirai. I mean, for a start, it takes her above Utami in the Dream League. Gives her a tiebreaker over Utami in the Dream League. But also, as I mentioned before, it's the latest in an indifferent series of performances from Utami. Now, obviously, I know that, she's putting on fantastic matches, but she's not getting the results. Lost to Io Sky, lost to Mirai here, lost to Nagisa Nozaki. Sari's mocking her, Mirai's mocking her, and rightly so. This is the woman around who Marigold is supposed to be built, the ace of Marigold. And it seems that anyone can step up and beat her, aside from Nanae Takahashi. Anyone can just step up and beat her. And it's a really well done story. You've had someone who is on the top, in Stardom, over a year as the World of Stardom champion, regarded by many as one of the best wrestlers in Japan, and yet she's losing left, right, and center. She's losing ground. She's 4 points, by the way, now behind Nori. And yes, she's got 2 matches in hand over Nori, including a match with Nori. But it does become increasingly difficult to catch up when you are that far behind, and suddenly the pressure starts to mount as well. Taking that aside for a moment and just focusing on this match, isolating this match as an individual match, good grief. Talk about power. Everything that I said about Natsumi Shozuki and Nori kicking each other that hard, their spines were coming out. Everything I said about just the meaty exchanges between Bozilla and Nanae Takahashi, everything I said about the aggression of some of those forearm exchanges between Sari and Miko Aono, the lariats in this match, the bumps that both women took, there was a disgusting one from Mirai. We had a shoot headbutt not 2 minutes into this match. A full-on shoot headbutt. And it was like, whoa, okay, we're going there already, are we? We've got Mirai doing 360 flips off a lariat? What? It was such a whirlwind of a 10-minute match in the best possible way. And then the finish coming out of absolutely nowhere, as though the shock of it took all of the wind out of Utami. This match was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And the only negative I have, and it's not their fault, is that it only went 10.5 minutes. Obviously, you've only got a time limit of 15. But I would have loved to have seen this go 13, 14 minutes. I really, really would, because these two felt like they were building to something, building to this enormous crescendo. And I wish we'd got to see that crescendo here.
This match wrap starts out with some really great technical wrestling. And you're just like, okay, we just saw a match go 15 minutes. We know this one is probably going to go 13, 14, the way it was pacing. Then all of a sudden it becomes like a big heavyweight fight where it's bomb after bomb after bomb. We're like, okay, like somebody's going to outlast somebody here. Like you have Utami hitting the air raid crash like 3 minutes in. You have Mirai hitting the Mirror Mirai shock like 5 minutes in. Like, oh, that's what those moves they use to build up like their finishes. And like you usually see that towards the end of the match, and it's like, where are they going here? Are they going to slow it back down? I didn't know where they were going, but I had to keep rewinding when I was watching on my iPad, because it was one thing after another. I'm writing my notes and I'd be missing something. I was like, holy geez. And then you got these German suplexes that they're going back and forth with. And ultimately you see Mirai, she eats a huge German suplex from Utami. And again, Mirai does the basically fighting spirits up, hits a lariat, and then another lariat to the back of Utami. And then when she hits that lariat to the back of Utami, the way Utami sells it, then she dummy turns around only for Mirai to get the head of steam of going from one side of the ring to the other, using the ropes to ricochet off, and then hit with that thunderous lariat for the 3 count. Yeah, I totally agree. I wish this would have went 15 minutes. I wish it would have went, I know it went 15 minutes. I wish it went 25 minutes because this was tremendous. But ultimately, again, it was like a heavyweight fight where it's just bomb after bomb after bomb, where Tommy gets caught with the one in the back of the neck, and she's not able to properly defend herself for that big running one from Mirai coming off the ropes. And it's ultimately Mirai that basically kind of gets an upset win over here to get the win. This ultimately puts Mirai up. I mean, again, we're trying to make other stars in this company other than Utami Hayashishita. Mirai is somebody that is on the cusp there. She might be there now. She gets a win. Main event at Korakuen Hall. Everybody's chanting her name. Utami Hayashishita, again, she is such a special talent because when she can get herself over and other talent over, even with her eating a loss, that's a very, very rare thing that a super talent wrestler can do. The fact that Utami's able to do it time in and time out, we've seen her do it so many times throughout the years. Again, the fact that she can eat a loss, but she can look really good in that loss, and ultimately is able to uplift her opponent. That's what she did here. This was terrific. And I have a feeling with Utami Hayashishita, we've seen how the way the Hat Man likes to book the 5 stars. My guess is we're breaking down Utami just a little bit here. We're going to build her back up. My guess that Utami versus Nori match, when it's coming up, is going to mean even so much more because it's basically now this whole entire tournament. Now it's Utami can't afford a loss. She can't afford a draw. So now we're going to be looking at these Utami matches with even more steam. We're going to be looking at it with more focus because now it's like she gets a draw, she's probably not going to qualify for the finals. She eats a loss, she's not going to qualify for the finals. So we're going to see every match between now and the end of the tournament. We're really going to be sitting on the edge of our seats. And the fact that we have this super performer in Utami Hayashishita that's going to be able to take us on this ride and take us on this story, and that match with Nori is going to be so important because ultimately that's going to be a tiebreaker for Utami Hayashishita. Again, Utami is somebody that we have pegged that is probably going to win this tournament, and Nori is kind of the MVP of this tournament. It's going to make Utami's matches mean so much more, especially that match with Nori. Great match. 4 1/4 stars for me, my friend.
And would you believe it, Matt? Utami faces Nori the next time Marigold are in Korakuen Hall on the 23rd of September. And it's really interesting, and we're going to have a look in a moment. It's really interesting to see these cards that we've got left and looking at who has got who. So just to give you an idea of where we sit in terms of block standings in the Dream League, Nori is out in ahead, 8 points, 3 wins, 2 draws. Mirai is in second, 2 wins and a draw on 5 points. Utami Hayashishita is in third, 2 and 1 on 4 points. Kokiyamare is the same, 2 and 1, 4 points. Natsumi Shozuki is next up with 3 points, 1, 2 and 1. Nagisa Nozaki currently 1, 1 and 1 on 3 points. Victoria Yuzuki sits just below that, 1, 2 and 1 on 3 points, and then propping up the rest of the block, Chikagoto 0 and 4, eliminated from proceedings on 0 points. In the Star League, Mai Sakurai sits at the top, 3 and 1 on 6 points. Nanae Takahashi and Bozilla are 6 points as well. Nanae 3 and 1, Bozilla 3 and 2. Mai Sakurai sitting above both of them due to tiebreakers. Underneath that, we have Sari 2-0 and 1 on 5 points. Miko Aono 2-1 and 1 on 5 points. Chiaki 1 and 2 on 2 points. Just below her, Kazuna Tanaka 0 and 3. She is in very much must-win territory now with every single match with a loss eliminating her. Misa Matsui at the bottom of the block is on 0 points, 0 and 4, and has been eliminated. In terms of the Dreamstar Grand Prix, this weekend is perhaps the most important weekend of the tournament, as we have got shows on Friday, on Saturday and on Monday. The show on Friday, on the 20th, is in Sendai Pit, and that is going to be live on Wrestle Universe. The matches that we've got are Mirai versus Koki Amarai, Utami Hayashishita versus Natsumi Shozuki, Chikagoto versus Nagisa Nozaki, and then we move into Star League. Sari versus Misa Matsui, Miko Ano versus Kazuna Tanaka, and Nanae Takahashi versus Chiaki. Matt, before we move on to the show in Morioka the next day, are there any matches there that A, stand out to you, and B, that you see as potential banana skins for people?
Ooh, I mean, again, we're at the crux of this tournament, so this is the point where you're going to start seeing some certain things unfold, partner. So, and the fact that it's going to be live on Wrestle Universe, so we're not going to have to wait for it. When is this show? This is what, Friday?
This is Friday the 20th, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, man, there's some interesting ones there, partner. What about you? What are ones that you think that we're going to see? Maybe the old quick 1, 2, 3 on one of these big stars that's going to, because only one person can qualify. What upsets do you kind of have in mind?
Had Misa Matsui not had the start that she's had, I'd be looking at that, because that European clutch, it could surprise people. Do I see her beating Sari? No. But had she been built a little bit better in this tournament, that could have potentially been one. I wouldn't be surprised if you see Koki Amarai getting a shock win over Mirai, you know.
No, I agree. And that would be really interesting because we're building stars, right? We're taking Utami. She's at the top. She's pulling people up. Mirai, she's right there. She let her pull people up. And we need to start having people that aren't Utami Hayashishita at the top of the block eat some L's. That would be a really bigger feather in the cap for the Amethyst Butterfly, my friend. Really good shouts on both. I think that you're going to see a lot of close near 2 counts with that Misa Matsui match, only for Sari to dump it right on her head. Sorry. That's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But you know what? If I'm a betting man, I'm betting a small amount that Koki Amarai gets the upset. Only a small amount, my friend.
Only a small amount. It's interesting, though, because on night 6 in Morioka City Gymnasium, Morioka, Saturday, 21st of September, Mirai has Victoria Yuzuki. Now, that could be a potential banana skin, especially with that rolling arrow. And then we've also got Koki Amarai versus Nagisa Nozaki in Dream League. Star League, we see Sari versus Kazuna Tanaka. I love Kazuna Tanaka, but that legitimately could be uncomfortable to watch. And Mai Sakurai versus Chiaki as well. I think aside from that potentially very interesting Mirai and Victoria Yuzuki match, Matt, I don't think we've got many shocks there. I think Koki Amarai beats Nagisa Nozaki as well.
So you're saying you're going to be uncomfortable watching Sari versus Kazuna Tanaka? You think Tanaka is going to beat up the red belt champion that much, buddy? I'll tell you what, that's a bold prediction, my friend.
33 seconds, roll up, time for tea.
I think it shouldn't be a roll up. It's just Tanaka comes out, blitzes her, and then they get 33 seconds that knockout. The ref's like, that's it. I've seen enough.
Yep,
I've seen enough. That's going to be a really good match. Yeah, you're right. Maybe the old slip of the banana peel is Victoria Yuzuki defeating. I don't see Mirai winning both matches. So if she's going to, and I don't see her losing both matches, but who do you elevate in that situation, Yuzuki or Koki Amarai? There really is no wrong answer, right? Like you can go either way. Neither one would work, and you know Mirai is going to make Amarai and Victoria Yuzuki look better than they already do because Mirai is fantastic. So yeah, I don't see her eating 2 L's there, but I definitely don't see her taking 2 wins as well. So I think she splits the weekend. But who gets the win there? It's going to be interesting to see. Regardless, both those matches are going to be great. And Kazuna Tanaka and Sari is actually going to be a really good match. Because Sari, even though she is very dominant, she does give her opponents a lot. Like, she really does. And Kazuna Tanaka's got a really basic, well, I'm not going to say basic, but she's got like a very, like, her offense is very strict, going towards the arm and then building up to the redream. So I think you're going to see some really interesting things there. I wouldn't be shocked that when we're reviewing that match, we're like, yeah, that's probably the best Kazuna Tanaka match that we've seen in her young career. So yeah, again, another loaded weekend of shows here from Marigold, my friend. We're really cooking with this Dream Star.
We really are. And then the final match, Jesus Christ, next week's episode is going to be a bigger match. The final show, the Night 7 show, the penultimate night of the tournament, live from Korakuen Hall, Monday the 23rd of September. Matt Turner, listen to this. We've got Utami Hayashishita versus Nori, Koki Amare versus Chikugoto, Mirai versus Natsumi Shiozuki, Victoria Yuzuki versus Nagisa Nozaki. That does set up Dream League very, very interestingly. And if Koki Amare beats Chikugoto, that puts her right up there in proceedings. Mirai, if she beats Natsumi Shiozuki, that could elevate her. Utami has to win every single match that she's got left to be in with a shot of topping Dream League. And if she loses to Nori, she's out. It doesn't matter what she's done. Which is an interesting place to be, isn't it?
Yeah, again, for how tough this tournament is to call, usually when you get towards the end, you can kind of figure it out. That's going to be a great match, but I think Utami's going to get the win there. And then we have the Twin Towers explosion. Maybe that's where Chikugoto gets her first win. Maybe Koki Amare is like right there to get to qualify to win that bracket, but it's her tag partner that stops her. That'd be a very interesting story to tell. It's something they can go a long way with. Yeah, really good stuff there. Natsumi Shiozuki versus Mirai, you said is on this card?
It is indeed.
Ooh, I was ready to say, I don't know how they can top this Korakuen Hall card, and the fact that they're probably going to do it in a week's time really just goes to show you how great this roster and how much it's evolving as far as an in-ring product goes. I'll tell you what, partner, when we review this, if we can remember, I would like us to kind of just quickly say which Korakuen Hall match or show we like better. The one that we just talked about or the one next week, because they're very, very even as far as like certain matchups go. So yeah, really interesting to see, and I expect their house number to be up way more than it was today, because again, you're running Korakuen Hall twice within 7 days. Majority of these 755 people were probably like, you need to come to the next one because this show was awesome. So I wouldn't be shocked if this next one next week is somewhere in the 900s. But again, that remains to be seen. What a fantastic show this was, my friend. And then we have not one, not two, but 3 shows to watch and review for next week. Is that what you're telling me?
It is. And I haven't even gone into the Star League matches for that show. Sari versus Nanae Takahashi. Miku Aono versus Mai Sakurai. Misa Matsui versus Kazuna Tanaka, and Chiaki versus Bozilla. But those first 2 matches, they are 2 very, very interesting matchups. And I know who I'd have to win both of them.
Sakurai wins all, buddy. Goodwin elbow drop. Everybody just lines up. Everyone she stacks them up, and Goodwin elbow drop. You know, like Daniel said in the Karate Kid, when he chopped through all the ice. That's what's going to happen. Boom. There we go, buddy.
Has to. Most dangerous move in pro wrestling. Anyway.
Sakurai dollars for all, buddy. Sakurai dollars for all.
Stackerai.
Oh my goodness. We're on a roll here, folks. It's only Monday.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of this episode of the Marigold Standard. Thank you, as always, for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk the Dreamstar Grand Prix with you. Join us again next week, where we'll be talking about the next 3 nights, Sendai Pit, Morioka, and Korakuen Hall, as we march towards those Nagoya finals on the 28th of September. In the meantime, if you have enjoyed what you've listened to, please consider subscribing to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. You can always leave us a comment and a review if you think we've deserved it. It really just helps the podcast be exposed to more people. Check out the website, www.thestardomcast.com, for all of your Marigold stats and all of our archived episodes. You can join our Patreon, patreon.com/thestardomcast. We can get all of these episodes early and ad-free for as little as $1 a month. If you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at Marigold Podcast. You can also check me out on Twitter at RealRobGoodwin. Matt Turner, sign us off, good sir.
Absolutely. In case anybody's wondering where the gaze at Julia is, we are recording this on a Monday. As myself and Rob Goodwin, we are jam-packed with our schedules. So NXT airs on a Tuesday, so there's a very good chance that there'll be 2 episodes of A Gaze at Julia next week. So don't think that we forgot about the beautiful madness that is one Julia. But folks, questions, comments, anything I could do for you, Matt Turner OF on the Instagram and or the Twitter is the best way to get a hold of me. If you want to shoot me an email, the email address is thestardomcast22@gmail.com. And folks, that's going to wrap it up for another fun-filled episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We appreciate all the support we get. It's like I always say, it's just not my podcast. It's our podcast. Because when we're all together, everyone's different and everyone's special.